Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to a new episode of World of Tanks with me, Rocker, your friendly neighborhood tank commander. Another new tank, this time it's the mighty Mouse, actually the first German tier 10 heavy. It was the first heavies the Germans got at tier 10. And I must say, it's thoroughly mediocre. That's the nicest thing I can say about it. In the beginning, this thing was awesome. Its thick armor was very hard to penetrate, and enemies, well, basically had to get really close and shoot at precisely the right weak spots to actually penetrate it. However, since the first official beta release of the game, there were a lot of new tanks released. I mean, basically the multiple complete lines and even complete nations that were newly released. And each of those nations were a little bit stronger than those that came before it, and the lines as well a little bit stronger than those that were already in game, which resulted in something called power creep, when the newer stuff is simply more powerful than the older one. And the mouse, well, the mouse fell behind. There were some buffs. I believe the turret front got a bit thicker and it got about 700 more hit points. However, all in all, it never really got back to its old glory days when a mouse was the most fearsome enemy you could meet on a battlefield. But in a match like this is an absolute dream situation for a mouse. There are very few other tier 10s, most of the enemies are at least 2 tiers lower, and those that could penetrate me are mostly somewhere else on the map, or a very inexperienced player that don't know where to shoot the mouse. As you can see here, bounced 2 shots basically at the same time, and from before again 2 shots or 3 even, and another bounce. That's when the mouse really shines, when you can angle your armor at a good, well, angle. The 200mm of frontal armors you get really thick. And if it's lower tier enemies, then you have the advantage that the gold shells from the lower tiers are not very good, except the ones from the IS-8. However, he doesn't load the gold shells, which could easily penetrate me, but he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't have the credits for it. I'm not actually complaining, but well, the IS-8 is the only real threat on this flank for me. Except maybe the IS-7 on the right side there, in the middle of the buildings, but well, he's somewhere else. I don't care about him right now. The T-71, again, not a problem for me. He doesn't have the pen to penetrate me anywhere. Right now I'm side scraping and having fun with enemies that simply can penetrate me, mercilessly bullying them. This is basically seal clubbing, and the Greenpeace will probably hate me for it. As you can see, I'm just showing the turret front and the side of my tank at a very sharp angle, which is basically makes it almost impenetrable. Even the heaviest, biggest calibers won't be able to penetrate that. Nice weak spot shot from the Tiger P. Probably not really necessary, but if you can, you should definitely always aim at weak spots, because if your enemy suddenly changes his angle, you could still bounce, or if you are simply unlucky and have a low roll on your penetration, it varies plus minus 25%, I believe. This IS-7, I believe, has just flat out given up after we basically slapped his team silly, and we are massively in the lead. So this is some free damage. I'm firing at the at the well, I don't know the English word for it, where the tracks keep coming back around. If you shoot there, you will mostly penetrate and detrack him, which is a good thing, because he's fixed to a position and you do damage him at the same time. The only thing that is left is an E75, which won't survive for much longer. He dies basically right now. As you can see, the mouse, if it gets good matchmaking, can be a terrible force on the battlefield, basically slapping its way through the entire enemy team, well, the lower tiers of the enemy team. Luckily, I only really met 2 tanks that could realistically penetrate me, the IS-8 and the IS-7, both of which were distracted by my teammates. And if they fired at me, I was at a really good angle, which meant basically they could do nothing else but bounce. So all in all, I've had the mouse for a while now, and I believe I've played about 30 games or something. All of which, well, were terrible, if I'm entirely honest. Because, well, the mouse, a very good, an elite player, the top 1% on the server, could probably make the mouse work really well. However, I'm not in the top 1%, I'm somewhere in the top 10% probably. I've got trouble with it because it's also very slow, somewhere around 20 kph, which means you can't really flex flanks if there is trouble on another spot on the map, and you're basically committing yourself to a flank which you must stay on because you simply don't have the speed to change it. But if the mouse works, it's hilarious fun. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and there will probably be new ones soon, and I hope we'll see us soon.